Hi, I'm Ari, I'm the Oak Witch, and in today's video I'm going to be discussing the practice of cleansing in witchcraft. Cleansing is something which I've spoken about before on my channel. In my video, First Magical Practices to Do as a Beginner, I believe I spoke about this. And I believe it's one of those foundational practices which is always very helpful for any sort of magical practitioner or energy worker to know, to sort of have down. Cleansing is just the act of clearing away or removing unwanted or stagnant energy, sort of that miasmic spiritual debris that lingers perhaps in a place or in an object or in a person. So it's that process of clearing away that spiritual or energetic debris that can build up over time in your practice for numerous different reasons. Cleansing is often falsely used interchangeably with purification, which is the act of clearing away or removing any spiritual energy from an object, area, or person, but it's specifically like any energetic debris, any spiritual sort of miasma that is there. It's clearing away like everything. So to use a more understandable analogy, you can see cleansing as kind of like lightly dusting your surfaces, tidying up the area to make it look more welcoming, more pleasant to be in, whereas purification is like deep cleaning. It's like getting every nook and cranny. It's like moving furniture, clearing and hoovering behind the furniture. It's that deep clean, whereas cleansing is more like a light clean. Banishing is often a term also used in this sort of concept of cleansing and purifying, and banishing is the removal of a specific entity, spirit, or perhaps form of energy from a place, from a person or object. So in this cleaning analogy, it'd be kind of like kicking out the person who's making the place a mess in the first place. Just wanted to clear it up because sometimes people can sort of use these terms interchangeably, and I guess it's just an argument of semantics really, but there is a clear definition between the three concepts. So why do we need to cleanse? I guess a lot of people who come into the magical world, witchcraft, sort of get a bit confused as to why are we now suddenly talking about cleansing all the time? We didn't need to do that before, so why do I need to do it now? And there's a lot of reasons for this. I think when we start getting more in tune with our own energy and the energy around us, and contacting spirits and being more sort of aware of the other world, we thus become more aware of that debris, that stagnant energy that can build up when we're more in tune with that movement of energy. So obviously when we're more aware of it, it can start affecting us more. So when you finish cleansing a space, that's why you feel so much better. The energy, the atmosphere of the room feels much more light and welcoming, and that's what cleansing can do. So when we're regularly manipulating these energies, obviously cleansing is something which becomes much more vital over time. Cleansing can help rid of kind of like minor spirits, but overall I'd say banishing is the practice in which you would utilize for getting rid of any unhelpful and unwanted any spirits that you sort of don't want in your area or around you. So they are different concepts, but for example, when you're doing a cleansing and you're cleansing a room, it can help sort of push out, lightly dust off any sort of unhelpful energy and sort of very minor spirits that may be lingering around. But yeah, cleansing is not the same as banishing. Banishing is used much more in a direct way. Cleansing can help clear away the negative atmosphere where these spirits reside and make more room for more positive energy or spirits that you want instead. So when would witches perform cleansings? And honestly, you perform cleansings when you feel like you need to, just as a first off. Perhaps you feel as though something is just in the air. You have a bad feeling and you don't really know why. Perhaps a cleansing will just help. Will help lighten that load and dust off that sort of bad feeling. Who knows? But sometimes people use cleansings for that very reason. If you just sort of don't know, but something feels like it's in the air, do a quick cleanse. You may want to perform a cleansing when you get a new tool for your practice. So you want to get rid of any prior energy or sort of debris that might be lingering around the object that you don't want to affect your future workings, cleansing can help just get rid of that and sort of give it a clean slate. And if it's anything quite intense, you might want to thus employ purification. If I'm reusing things like spell jars, I will purify rather than cleanse because I want to deep clean the object. I don't want anything from the prior spell getting involved. In different scenarios you would utilize the different concepts, but yeah, people cleanse before starting spell work or ritual, and people cleanse just to sort of help get yourself in that mindset to help get rid of anything that's unhelpful or anything unwanted that's sort of around you, to get yourself in the zone. But you don't want to purify and get rid of everything. You just want to help sort of get yourself in that mindset, if that makes sense. People cleanse when you might feel a bit spiritually blocked, or maybe even burnt out, or just feeling like you're kind of stuck, and sometimes a cleansing can really help refresh yourself. People cleanse when, for example, you've had an argument and the room feels like it's been filled with a lot of heavy, intense emotions. You might want to just cleanse just to help dissipate that feeling from your space, that energy, and help reset and sort of refreshen that area so you can make the space more welcoming again. There's loads of different ways people cleanse, but those are just a few examples as to when you might want to. But yeah, you can really just cleanse whenever you feel like you need to cleanse. Often I find when I need to cleanse, it's much more of an intuitive feeling. There's something which goes, I'll cleanse before I do that. Oh, I'll cleanse that room. Oh, I just need a cleanse. When you start practicing more, when you're more into a rhythm of your practice of that energy, movement, and practicing magic, I think it does get more intuitive in the sense that when you just feel like you need to cleanse, you just do a cleanse just in case. But there's so many ways that you can cleanse. And I think perhaps there is a misconception that cleansing needs to be this massive elaborate ritual. It really doesn't. Cleansing can be really, really simple and can be really, really elaborate if you want to. People in their practice form a routine of when to cleanse. People, for example, clean on every dark moon, or people clean every week, for example, and that might be a bit more of an elaborate ritual. But other times I find in my practice I'll just do something really simple before I do a working. And now I'm going to go through some of the different ways you can cleanse. Let's start off with smoke, because this is the most popular one depicted in media, and it's just the concept of burning incense, dried herbs, resins, incense sticks or cones, or plant material in bundles. So many ways people over the years have formed these cleansing practices in sort of their traditions. And essentially this concept of burning plant material is to let the smoke kind of fill a room or waft it over a person or an object, and the smoke will kind of clear away that unwanted interruptive energy. In this process of burning plant material, people utilize certain plants associated with cleansing or purification, and you can find these in your plant magic studies, in loads of plant encyclopedias that exist, and as you start to form that relationship with those plant allies, you find that certain plants will become more helpful to you, and that's an individualistic process that you'll sort of build in your practice. But honestly, sometimes I've just utilised a random incense stick that I found for cleansing when I've been in a bit of a pinch. You just need something to do the job. But obviously when something is a bit more specific, like a specific cleansing herb, will help that process a bit quicker. So in terms of using smoke to cleanse in my own practice, I find a really easy go-to for me is getting an incense stick, just lighting it, having something to catch the incense, and just kind of waving the incense stick around. And I have my own personal incantation which I'll say whilst I'm doing that, and then incorporate that sort of visualizations to sort of help with that energy work. And that's just quite a simple process that I'll do regularly for a room, for example, for my house. But really it's up to you how this process works for you. People will do it differently. Something which I feel is worth saying is that this is not the same as smudging. Smudging as a term is used a lot in modern eclectic witchcraft spaces, and I don't think it's really appropriate to do so, since it comes from specifically Native American religion and spirituality. Far be it for me to speak on behalf of any indigenous groups, but I do find that smudging is not the same as smoke cleansing. Smudging is a more specific ritual system which incorporates specific herbs and specific actions that is obviously sacred to indigenous groups. So this concept of utilizing the word smudging I don't think is really appropriate for anyone who's not specifically a part of that indigenous aspect. I find that it's not really appropriate to use that term because it's simply just incorrect anyway. You can just use smoke cleansing or even suffumigation if you want a fancy word. You know, smoke cleansing is fine. Another thing I want to clear up, which I've seen on TikTok, I'm not sure if this is really widely known in the community, but I've heard people say that seining is Celtic smudging. And again, far be it for me to speak on behalf of Scottish folk magic practitioners, but I also don't think that's accurate. To my knowledge, seining is a process of purification, but it involves quite a few different practices, not just smoke cleansing. If I've got that wrong in the comments, please let me know. But I do think, again, it's a separate practice from a separate tradition. So I won't comment too much further on that, but I just wanted to outline that, you know, they're different concepts, they're different things, and it's important to do your research before kind of like adopting these labels, which you might think sounds cool, but actually they mean specific things, and the definition and the sort of meaning of that word in the context to the cultural background is quite important to recognize. So let's move on to the next method of cleansing, and that is to sweep, and specifically witches utilize like a besom or a broom to do so. So many cultures across the globe have utilized sweeping as a form to cleanse, to move about unwanted energy or evil spirits. It's something that which has existed in so many different cultures. A broom is probably the most aesthetically pleasing one for modern witchcraft, as you know, of the archetype of the witch on the broom. It's a fun one to utilize as well. But you can just simply use a broom to sweep away any, well, physical dirt, but also any spiritual dirt to help in that process. So to my knowledge, I think you do it from top down and then back to front and out of the front door. So yeah, this isn't also something which has to be done on necessarily a floor. It can be done, you know, sweeping a besom. You can get smaller besoms as well and sweeping it over your body or on a, like on your altar, for example, just to sweep away any of that sort of lingering energy. Yeah, so really fun one to do. And this, again, you can make this really elaborate as a form of like a cleansing ritual, or if it's just something you need to do really quick before a spell, that's also something you can do. It doesn't need to be a massive ceremonial thing. It can just be a quick little sweep, maybe with an incantation that you really enjoy or a visualization that, you know, you can incorporate along with it. It can just be as simple as that. The next method of cleansing, which I'll talk about, is music. So specifically, popular tools are using like bells or simply just singing. So using bells is pretty much what you would expect. It's ringing of the bells of an area to help kind of like move about the energy and to help sort of direct it away from your space. Or if you're doing like chiming bells over your body, you know, it's the same process of using that sort of like almost like air aspect to move about the energy away from you. In terms of singing music bells, I really like using sound cleansing because it really helps leave the atmosphere really like warm and welcoming as well, especially if you're playing music that you really enjoy personally. Like, it could be any music which you just really enjoy. And that can just be something that you can also incorporate like dancing to, which is another method of cleansing which I'll talk about. And yeah, that similar concept of dancing about the room, helping shake up the energy, you know, the lingering stagnant energy that's about the place that you want to sort of shake up and dissipate and, you know, sort of move out. dancing, music, that movement of energy, that is really fun to do and really helps leave the atmosphere feeling kind of like fun and really warm. So water in itself is another great cleanser. It is something so simple which you can incorporate, and I think water is so great because you can have so many different types of sacred water to utilize for cleansings. And you know, I've used water as a cleanser just to literally get the tips of my fingers wet and just flick something and incorporate like an incantation along with that, just as a really simple cleanser, something that you need to do in a pinch, and maybe you don't actually have a lot of tools around you. Just a little bit of water to cleanse is really simple. Burning essential oils is another easy method to cleanse. Just get an oil which is specifically associated with cleansing maybe, or purification if that's what you want to do, and then you pop it in an oil burner and it can leave the room smelling really nicely. I guess just be cautious about burning essential oils if you have pets or children. It could be quite sensitive and quite toxic, so do be careful about that, and I'll put some links below regarding that. Following on this sort of water element is the concept of baths, cleansing baths. Now these are kind of fun because they're very relaxing as well, and you literally just make up a bath, maybe put in some dried herbs for cleansing, or maybe a few drops of essential oil, and you know, you can charge the bath as you would sort of charge anything for cleansing, and then yeah, you just get in and soak up and you cleanse your body. So this is more specifically cleansing a person, or maybe some objects if they're water safe and you want to pop them in the bath. This is quite a nice one. Not always accessible because I guess people don't always have baths, but if you want to incorporate this similar element, you can sort of make up a similar thing in a shower. So what a lot of people do for showers is you can make up like a little pouch full of dried herbs or like oils, and then put that like underneath your shower head, if that makes sense. And yeah, the heat of the water will help sort of activate that scent, if that makes sense. I'm not probably describing that well. For example, people will hang eucalyptus in their shower, so the like heat of the water and the steam helps activate the sort of oil within the eucalyptus to help release that scent in the air, in the atmosphere. So that can be really cleansing as well. So that similar process can work with like a dried herb pouch and such. So really great method if you don't have a bath, but maybe you know you want to do something similar but for a shower. That can help as well. I know certain folk traditions incorporate bucket washes, so if you don't have a bath but you still want to incorporate that element of being washed by a specific solution of dried herbs, oils that you've made up like you would in a bath, people make up a bucket of a specific, you know, water, dried herb, oils, and then pour it on themselves as a method to cleanse. That's another option that you could do. And this leads me to my next method of cleansing, which is washes, like floor washes. So this is essentially like a ritual bath, but for your home or for specific objects. So a lot of different folk traditions incorporate this concept of floor washes or window washes to cleanse your home and to leave it with a specific type of energy which you desire. So there's many different ways you can make washes, but I guess a baseline recipe might include spring water or a specific type of sacred water that you've made, and some herbs or some oils, and yeah, and then you just use that to wash your floors or to wash your windows. I wanted to quickly shout out this book, Water Magic by Liv Dorsey, as this is a read which I've dipped in and out of. I haven't actually fully read or finished it, but something which is really helpful in terms of recipes for sacred waters or for, you know, the washes which I spoke about. There's really great ones in here and a lot of sort of cultural context as well, which I think is really great. So this might be something you want to look at if that actually really interests you, that concept of using water in this way in your witchcraft practice. Something like this is really helpful to get an understanding of how you would do so. So just wanted to quickly shout that out. Another method of cleansing which is quite popular is earth burial. Now, you know how I feel about earth burial, but this is more specific to an object, a tool that you want to cleanse. And you would put this, you know, you'd bury it in soil, in the earth, And the idea is that the earth will sort of absorb that negative energy, the interruptive, unwanted energy lingering in the object, and the object would be cleansed after a certain amount of time. Of course, I don't really like this concept of interrupted soil ecosystems. I would prefer not to do that in my practice, and would also recommend, if you didn't want to do earth burial, just in the actual earth, you can get just like a pot of soil, like a houseplant pot, fill it with soil, and that can be really great alternative rather than going out and sort of interrupting wild spaces. So that is an option which you can have, and you can just have that in your home. So that is an alternative, an eco-friendly alternative for earth burial. So yeah, those are my like specific ways to cleanse tips, but something which I also want to go on to say is that cleansing doesn't have to be super extravagant or like aesthetically witchy. You know, simply just tidying your place, cleaning, dusting your shelves, or hoovering your floor, moving about furniture, that non-magical mundane cleaning, physical cleaning, is cleansing as well. It is a part of the process. And, you know, cleansing doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be this really outwardly magical process, you know. I think it's something which can be just really simple and non-magical as well. And sometimes cleansing rituals can literally just include like getting a white pillar candle and some salt and some cleansing herbs and just lighting that, just helping to draw in all of that unwanted energy. Like, it really just depends on what feels right for you. You know, there's so many different books, for example like this one, which goes through different cleansing spells, and you can get a lot of great inspiration from books like this. So yeah, ultimately, whichever way cleansing works for you and feels right for you and helps you get rid of that unwanted energy that you don't want in your space, whatever works for you, works for you. Something else which I want to say is that, you know, there are many different cleansing traditions in certain cultures that are worth looking at. If, you know, you might want to look to your own culture to see what cleansing traditions they have. I've discussed the sort of concept of smudging purification in Native American spirituality. You know, I've discussed seining in Scottish folk tradition. There's limpias in Latina sort of folk magic as well. So there's so many different ways you can cleanse, and certain cultural traditions have incorporated specific ways to cleanse which go outside of what I've discussed here. For example, with the limpias, there's limpia con huevo, which is the egg cleansing, which is quite popular. I see that a lot on TikTok. So there are certain cleansing practices or rituals from certain traditions, certain cultural backgrounds, which I haven't really explained in here, but worth researching into if that interests you and if you're sort of tied to that culture. So really, there's so many different ways to cleanse. I think something just to highlight is, if you're going to start researching cleansing practices from a culture which you're not a part of, do make sure you're being respectful in your approach. I think it's worth learning from native and indigenous sources, so learning from people who are actually a part of that living culture, because that's really important, to be respectful and to make sure you're not culturally appropriating or just like stealing practices and picking and choosing in whichever way suits you without any regard for cultural nuance and respect. So yeah, let's just make sure we're being kind to each other. And yeah, and that is cleansing. Cleansing can be really super fun, and it can be really simple, and I think that's why, as a foundational practice, it's just great to start off with and to experiment with different ways to cleanse, just to help you really understand the practice just at a baseline. So as your practice develops, it's something which you could just easily do in a pinch if you wanted to. So yeah, that's all I have to say for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I really hope that it was helpful, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave them below. I'll be answering comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.